Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Inside Game podcast. Before I introduce today's guest, this episode is in association with Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn Castleblaney. And here's a word from Ray's Tanning and Wellness in Auchnachoy.
Rays are the first on the island of Ireland to offer the Red Wave Pure Red Light Therapy Bed, a cutting-edge recovery tool now being used by top athletes worldwide. Whether it's muscle soreness, inflammation, joint stiffness or speeding up overall recovery, red light therapy is becoming a genuine game changer. So if you're training hard, coming back from a knock or just wanting to stay injury free, call into Rays and experience the benefits for yourself. Rays Tanning and Wellness, helping athletes recover faster, perform better and stay in the game.
Welcome everyone to the Inside Game podcast. Please remember folks to give the Inside Game a like, follow, subscribe on all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube and Spotify. It really does help to keep the podcast coming. So episode number 21, and today I welcome on a former county player who has been a great servant of Fermanagh football and featured in a lot of big games over the years. Ryan McCluskey, you're very welcome on the show. How's it going?
All's good, yeah. Enjoying the little bit of sunlight we're getting at this stage, but that'll probably turn in the next few days. But yeah, all's good. All's good.
Good stuff. Ryan, later on we'll probably get to talking about Armagh Fermanagh coming up in Brewster Park over the weekend. But before we do, look, there's always a wee bit of a get to know you feel about the podcast here. So I wanted to ask you about your soccer career, which you were balancing along with being an inter-county footballer, and you were doing it at a high level, Irish League. Yeah. Could you maybe look, first of all, who were you playing for, and how did you actually manage to balance that over the years?
I suppose when I come back from university, I had a couple of spells with I was probably Dungannon Swifts. Played a bit actually of football down in the League of Ireland as well with Sligo Rovers, and then played with Portadown as well. So how did I manage it and how did I balance it? When I look back, it was crazy actually at times. You know, I remember at one stage being fortunate enough on a Friday night to be training with the international rules team down in Croke Park, going to play a soccer match. I think it was for Portadown on the Saturday morning. After we had trained that morning, with the international series team again, and then we might have had maybe some type of county match in some capacity on the Sunday. And I remember actually Mickey McGurn was one of the key trainers with the international rules, and he was a Fermanagh man as well at the time. But I remember him pulling me on the Saturday, and he goes, you know, it's crazy what you're at the moment. And when I look back, it was crazy. But listen, I was fortunate that I had a number of managers as well that allowed me to pursue both and do both. And listen, I loved both codes and loved playing at as high a level as I possibly could. So as much as I was fortunate, there's plenty of miles in the clock as well at this stage. So the body's a bit tired, a bit sore now, you know.
Are you still playing a bit even to this day then, yeah?
So I'm still, we've a game tonight actually for Enniskillen in town. So I do try and play some junior football as well. But trying to patch up injuries and trying to stay fit has been a problem now. So, but no, listen, it's been great just, and it's a nice to just get out and play as well at times. And I've taken a bit of a back step from coaching for a while. So I suppose it's kind of filled that gap, and it's probably what I needed as well. So it's been nice.
Yeah. Well, as I say, you were balancing it with a very fine inter-county career. Ran, you played on the Fermanagh team that were actually a good side, really, when we look back on it. You know, 2003, you sort of came and got, it was a pretty heavy defeat you faced against Tyrone in the All-Ireland quarter-final, but 2004 came and you lost to Tyrone in the Ulster Championship very narrowly then that stage. I suppose that was a real sign, that was a telling sign that Fermanagh had made significant strides. And then through that 2004 campaign, you built a lot of momentum. You beat Meath and Cork, and then Ulster finalist Donegal. Donegal, they were a good side. They beat Tyrone as well, you know, through the Ulster campaign. But the big one came. We're talking about Fermanagh and Armagh. The big one came where you beat Armagh then in 2004 quarter final, and you know, Armagh were just off an Ulster final win. They'd hammered Donegal, but the quarter final would be a different story then, and not so much a good day for Armagh, but like for Fermanagh, something special, Ran.
Yeah, and I suppose that had probably built with the bit of momentum that we took from the back door. I know it was really only introduced maybe a year, maybe or two before that as well. So it actually, that format give ourselves a chance. And when I say ourselves, counties that possibly didn't get a run in the championship, a real chance to just get some momentum and try and play them more than one game maybe here as well.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, in the summer, let's be realistic as well. So we went into that game as you had said, beating some decent sides with Meath and Cork probably to name the pick of them. And that day for us was a real just let the shackles off and go and play. It mightn't have been the best spectacle in terms of scoring. I think it was maybe 11-10. What did it finish? Maybe something along that lines that day.
Something
But
like that,
listen,
yeah.
um, no, it was listen. It was special to be part of and to be part of that group just in general. We had many winners from McCrory winners in that squad. We had vocational schools winners in that squad, so it was a real combination. We had McCrory Cup winners, or sorry, I'd said McCrory. We had um, a lot of players, sorry, from and a good representation from clubs, and some really strong, a really strong spine of the team, but just strong players overall. And it was certainly a moment to cherish. And it's somebody, I don't know whether it was yourselves actually had shared it the other day leading up to the game, and it brings back
Mhm.
great memories. But unfortunately, no medals. Yeah, so it was fun.
Yeah. That took Fermanagh into the semi final. Very, very close to reaching an All Ireland final at that particular time. The first game was a replay, and Fermanagh remained the only team to ever reach an All Ireland semi final without actually winning a provincial title at this stage. So I
There you
suppose it
go.
just sort of it just further highlighted, how special a year that actually was.
Yeah, and I suppose I go back to that moment actually probably before. I'm trying to think. It was actually before the Cork game or the Armagh game, and it was Charlie at the time had put on. Yeah, it was the Any Given Sunday little kind of Al Pacino
Yeah,
speech,
yeah.
and probably that was. I think it was actually sorry the Armagh game, and something just I kind of stuck out in my memory when I watched that video back as well was that moment on the bus where we were just like you just kind of got it off that we're not going to be beaten this day against Armagh, and um, I remember going out in the pitch and even in the warm up. I think at the time one of the other cornerbacks, Shane Gowan, was running around nutmegging people and trying to put the ball, in the top corner. This is before the game, so that's how relaxed kind of we were getting in. And I remember actually veering across, and we've had some battles with Armagh clearly at that stage, and I remember kind of looking across and they were just looking at us as if, what are these numpties at, kind of more than anything else. So there was kind of an element of they were completely focused. I don't know how focused we were at that stage, to be honest. But I think Shane Gowan probably had scored the first maybe soccer goal, you could say, in Croke Park. I think he put one in the top corner in the warm up against Ronan Gallagher that day. But anyway, that was kind of how relaxed we were, in the warm up for that. But um, certainly we went on to the semi final, and probably that first day. Yeah, I thought we could have got something out of that semi
Yeah.
final against Mayo, and maybe should have won that game. And yeah, that would have been an interesting story then to see how we would have got on in the All Ireland final against Kerry. But listen, we came up short the second day, and we can't have any complaints.
Yeah. Um, you did come very close to winning Ulster though yourself in 2008.
Yeah.
Another crossover game with Armagh here. The first game was a draw after a big fight back from Fermanagh in the
Yeah.
second half, and then the replay was tight throughout. It really wasn't until Stephen McDonald got a late goal that sort of decided the game. So look, so close again, Rand, 2008.
Yeah, and again, that was, I suppose. Listen, it was a wonderful spectacle for the county, and again, it's one you look back on with pride, but also there is a bit of despair and regret that you possibly left. Maybe I know we missed a number of crucial frees that day, and that was unlike our free takers as well at the time. And aye, it's something in the modern game that sure Armagh carried Oisin for years, and when I say carried him, he was instrumental to their All Ireland wins as well. And in the modern game, even now, you need a free taker that will not miss practically as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
will help you throughout games. But again, listen, we just didn't get there. We didn't get over the line, and you can't have any complaints as much as you can turn around and you might say, yeah, you should have done this, should have done that. But ultimately, we played against sides that had won all Irelands throughout those campaigns as well. That great Tyrone side, and you know. If you look at the names I said one already, and you mentioned that the well, sure, Kieran was playing throughout those teams as well,
Hmm.
and then you have Peter
Hmm.
Canavan and you have your Brian Doohers, and you know you're just fortunate to an extent to say you shared the pitch with some of those players and played against them. And clearly, I had a number of battles with Stevie, and um, still don't know how I stayed on the pitch for that quarter final actually, because I actually thought I'd done all right that day, and watched it back a number of years ago again, and he absolutely roasted me up until about the last 10 minutes. So, yeah, I don't know how I stayed on the pitch, but it was brilliant, some of the battles we had, and it's actually great now. I think you do bump into these players, you have them maybe on social media and stuff as well. So there's always a bit of slag and there's always a bit of crack, and especially coming up to the games, and especially championship games. You might be involved in podcasts or whatever it is where you get chatting these lads you come up against, and it's brilliant. You're reminiscing about some of the badness maybe that happened on the pitch, but ultimately, yeah, you go and shake hands and it's done, and that's the beauty of our sport as well. So it's brilliant, yeah, and some brilliant days.
Ryan, you mentioned earlier about coaching. You were involved. Am I right in saying you were involved with the Fermanagh setup in coaching under coaching basis in
Yeah,
recent times?
yeah, it probably was about 4 years maybe now, and it,
Okay.
it came in actually under. I think it was the start of Kieran's. Yeah, Kieran Donnelly's. Yeah, tenure with Fermanagh. So, I'd been in for about a year, and um, I suppose at that stage, listen, I had been coaching down in, it was Barra actually for that as well. And I'd done GPO work, I suppose, down in Stamullen with St Pat's. So, uh, for me, listen, I probably just wanted to, maybe get more involved and kind of go back into the management. I was in coaching at that stage to an extent as well. So, listen, I really enjoyed my year again. It was great learning at that stage for me, and then I kind of went back into management again with Mullahorn, and yeah, I was back in with Cardiff then. So I'd went
Hmm.
back in with Banty and Rory at that stage. I went in with Shane McCabe in Mullahorn. So it's yeah, I've I suppose really enjoyed the last number of years and coming out of that, but also it's has been, yeah. It's busy. Listen, it's a busy environment when you get back into that. So, for me, the last year and a half, it's been nice just to, yeah, take a step back and I suppose look at the game and how it's changed even to an extent with the new rules and stuff as well. And um, I suppose, yeah, maybe plan the next steps down the line as well. So it's been a nice break, and I suppose I've enjoyed being back playing a bit of soccer and that side of things as well. But yeah, it's been nice as well.
Just a shout out and a thank you to Raymond Waters at the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney, for the continued support of the podcast. If you're ever in Castleblaney, or even if you're not, why not visit the Old Coach Inn for a fine dining experience and entertainment in their friendly bar and lounge. That's in the Old Coach Inn, Castleblaney.
If we move things now into the upcoming game at the weekend, Ryan, the two sides, the last two times that they met were both in Brewster Park in 2024. One was in the league, both in Division 2, and one in the first round of the Ulster Championship, which is what this weekend is, a repeat of that fixture. So, look,
Yeah,
listen, with Armagh Division 1 and Fermanagh in Division 4 next year, there's a clear favourite here for this one, but
yeah,
if I was to put you on the spot a little here, what case would you make for Fermanagh progressing here? And look, if I was to help you out a little bit, news came out that both Ben Creeley and Callum O'Neill have suffered serious injuries, which means Armagh's midfield pairing is ruled out this weekend and beyond.
yeah.
So from what I can gather, Fermanagh have the big men around the middle, maybe to capitalise on that.
Yeah, listen, what I've probably enjoyed the most, I know the lads have been away in a training camp, and been over to, I think it is Portugal as well. We've heard nothing, which for
Yeah.
me it's always a nice sign as well. Um, I'd be hoping, that it's been a chance to really, I suppose, put aside what happened in the league and that relegation, put that to the side, and really then just address it, yes, and reference it, and just make a case that that's it, draw a line under it, and kind of, yeah, reevaluate things, refocus things, and just be ready to hopefully have bring that siege mentality that we would have brought a number of years ago. I think it was back in 2018, yeah, as well, when we brought that to Armagh.
Mhm.
Albeit the support that day as well was fantastic, and I'd hope that with a bit of good weather as well, that we might see that. I think the full seated stand now is full as well, the covered stands full, and the John Veazey stand at the weekend. So it's great if that
Mhm.
is the case. I'd love if Armagh travel well as well, but I would love nothing more than that siege mentality, that we actually take the game to Armagh. And yeah, it has been a quiet preparation, which I've really liked, because I think over the last number of years as well, maybe too much stuff has really leaked. So I think a closed house that nobody knows too much is also a dangerous kind of prospect as well coming into the game. So there is talent as well there within the Fermanagh team. I've loved, even in my own latter years, playing alongside the likes of Brandon Horn and Johnny Cassidy and my own club mates. And I can only look at the likes of Justy McDade, Joe McDade. They've been real pluses. They've come into the squad, like, and these lads are all, as you referenced as well, they're big lads playing around the middle of the park. I have to reference Dar as well, but I did watch the lads a number of times in the league, and probably my own frustration was that, at times, I would have liked them to kind of probably stand up for one another a wee bit more as well, and I
Mhm.
probably, I'm going back to the better sides that I would have played alongside. That, I suppose, to an extent, if you messed with one player, you messed with everybody, and I know all the top
Yeah.
sides have that element of nastiness, and there was times where that frustrated me, probably in the league, where one or two players may have been pinpointed. But listen, I do believe that there's a good quality of player there within our own county, and I also see a different Armagh coming down, to the game as well, and I probably look at maybe a number of changes for them as well. So, I'm hoping, yeah, that we can turn you over, and clearly get a famous win in Brewster Park.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, look, there's a Declan Bonner factor who has a few wins over Armagh. Look as well. There's an excellent performance against Down last year in Brewster Park for a large part of that game that eventually
Yeah,
just came up short towards the end. And coming down the stretch, if it's still tight, just like your famous game in 2004, which was also thought to be a foregone conclusion, that's the sort of thing that could make the favourites team a bit nervous. So when you factor all that in, and then we look at what the likes of Westmeath and Wicklow done over the weekend, the new rules have almost
yeah.
had the effect of closing the gap, and it probably was a felt that the new rules were going to lead to huge blowouts in games, but we're not really seeing that.
Yeah, and I think we're ultimately in an era as well at the moment where, overall, and I'd probably apply this to from a coaching perspective. I think from a player's knowledge away as well. Sorry, that the game has become more intelligent overall, and what I mean by that is, there's more management in games. Player management, coaches are managing games better. I suppose there's a better understanding now of not just the new rules, but probably the tactical elements of games. You listen to pundits even at the weekend in any of the games. You're talking now about, clearly, we've always probably talked about restarts, but we're also now talking about fast and slow attacks in games, how games are possibly being manipulated a wee bit more, and you're trying to get your key players into the game, and that for me is something that Fermanagh need to address as well. How do you get your key players into the game? If you watch the Armagh, and you've watched the Armagh and Throne game, if Matty Donnelly's on the pitch, probably from the start, I think Matty becomes a perfect foil for the likes of the Canavan lads. I know Dara, sorry, hadn't played, but I think he brings um, players into the game by just
Hmm.
his nature of winning ball, and it's then he brings those players, other players into the game. So it's kind of, yeah, trying to manipulate those moments, as a player and clearly as a coach. and manage the game better. And again, there were elements of the weekend. It may have been in the Westmeath game. I think it was possibly the Westmeath goal against Meath, where and it was, elements of this is worked on in training as well, where I think Westmeath just completely flooded one side of the pitch and isolated maybe a one-on-one on the right hand side. I'm not sure even who got the goal, but I remember seeing the clip somewhere online, and it was just a one-on-one.
Hmm.
And in the modern game, a one-on-one's a bad situation to be in. It doesn't matter who
It
the
is.
attacker is and who the defender is, and you go back to um, trying to I suppose defend those situations and get numbers against whoever that attacker is. But I do think the game just overall is yeah, we're in a real kind of tactical era of the game, and you see that by how slow and how fast the game is kind of played and the transitions in games as well. So I think if Fermanagh can manage to, I suppose, stay in the game, and probably, yeah, what's let us down in the league campaign as well. It probably has been our scoring rate. So if Declan can, yeah, get us into probably better scoring positions, and if we can manipulate those moments and really strike gold whenever we have those purple patches, then I think we could be well in the game, and it'd be great, yeah, if we could go into the last 10 minutes and put a bit of heat on our man, see where they're at. But listen, as well, we have to be realistic as well. Our man, everybody, the pundits, we all said it, like, and Armagh will be frustrated that they didn't probably beat Tyrone by more. But the fact that we're talking about Armagh beating Tyrone comfortably in that preliminary game and quarter-final game also shows you that the level that Armagh have been at over the last number of years as well. And it's a credit to them and Kieran as well.
It is. Well, they're going to need to dig deep, I think, when it comes to the team this week. And as I mentioned, two big players now ruled out of the midfield, which was going to bring
Yeah.
about a bit of a rejig and a rethink for Oisin O'Neill, Connor Turbot, guys who they've been using as impact players for the last few rounds
Yeah.
of the league and against Tyrone. So we may also see then the likes of Andrew Murnan and Barry McCambridge call back into action, who have not played football for quite a few weeks.
Which is,
So,
yeah. That's
so go ahead.
mad, and even I forgot about those players actually as well. That were not. I don't even think they were in the squad the last day. And you're right, the likes of Grugan, O'Neill, Paddy Burns have come on the last day. Jason Duffy, Ross McQuillan. It's crazy. That bench would probably make a lot of other county teams. So
Mhm.
it's a credit to. Somebody did write about this as well. That 2018 probably kick in the backside that we had given you in Brewster Park. I think there may have been 8 or 9 players that maybe started that day that went up the steps and lifted an
That's
All
right.
Ireland from that team. And there's still a large majority of those players in the squad still. And clearly, Aidan Falker and stuff as well. But like, I think we have a Decky is the only remaining player from that Fermanagh squad. Unfortunately as well, with the Collins and some of the other key players that moved on last year as well. So,
Hmm.
that's testament to that moment in Armagh where they have kind of progressed on. And unfortunately, it's probably as much as the fact that we got to the Ulster final that year, and we nearly got promoted, I think, the following year as well, under, I think it was
Hmm.
Rory and his backroom team, that unfortunately since then we haven't kicked on. So um it can only be of testament to Kieran, who I think Kieran was maybe about eight years in the role as well, I'd read at that stage. So I know a lot of Armagh fans were clearly calling for his head. So, at that stage, you also have to credit the county board, the players who stood strong behind him as well. And, that was massive, and that is massive to where Armagh are now, that they are competing in the position they're in. And you have to credit everybody involved, including the county board, and where the county have kind of went from there as well. So it's admirable from where we have been watching them, and kind of where unfortunately we have went over the last number of years as well.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a possibility still, obviously, that Fermanagh will end up in the Tailteann Cup. That
Yeah.
if that's the case, what would you? Surely the ambitions there would be to consider Fermanagh to consider themselves as contenders.
Yeah, and I suppose even when we were playing, I suppose back when we were playing, it's something you nearly even hate talking about, because I suppose your ambition every year is to yeah, try and win the Ulster Championship. As hard as it is. Yeah, listen, it's something that the lads clearly had went close to and have been very close to over
Hmm.
the last number of seasons as well. Uh, you know, for me, what Declan's doing at the minute is something that is needed. And I would go back to that nearly that siege mentality to an extent. It's just closing up everything, go and get your heads down, remove probably all media and anything that's maybe being written, maybe in local papers, and forget about clearly that relegation and just go in and just say, right, let's go at it here. So I think that preparation side is key. Unfortunately, if the lads do fall short, then probably the manner of whatever that, if it is a loss, the manner of the loss could be critical. So you're
Hmm.
hoping that we do go out and give a yeah a good thorough, I suppose, test to our man and account of ourselves more than anything else, and hopefully that will spur you on. Then I'm not sure when that, how many weeks there would be a break in between that as well, but yeah, you're clearly hoping that nobody then, I suppose, to an extent, will throw the toys out of the pram, and will see the bigger picture. It
Yeah.
it has been a frustrating league campaign, but you suppose you also have to look that there was a few lads that I mentioned the Cullen twins earlier on. There's a few lads that had stepped away from the squad that were senior figures, and played probably in the spine of that side as well,
Hmm.
and that can be hard to replace. And then you bring a new management team in. And I know that the group are fond of that management at the minute and have enjoyed, the management as well. Any of the lads who you do chat, are fond of the management as well. So I suppose, listen, we're not in the Premier League here. We have to give the management a chance here to stamp, you know, I suppose, yeah, that they're, you could say, their tactical side of things and how they want to do things as well. Um, and you're hoping that your litmus test usually always has been the championship, the championship games as well, and your summer. So let's hope that they, yeah, can go in and if it is then into the Tailteann Cup, then just can go at it and let the shackles off, and
Hmm.
I suppose get bums back on the seats and really push the whole thing on.
Well, before we wrap up and before I get a prediction from you here, Ryan, who would you consider as like the one to watch, or maybe one or two players to watch for Fermanagh here at the weekend?
Um, I, I listen. He is a club mate of mine, and he just, I love how he plays. I love that edge. He is probably one of our key man markers as well. So unfortunately, that's the other side of it, that he probably will have eyes on somebody at the weekend. If it is a Connor Turbert, or it could be could be Connady. I'm not sure who he's likely to pick up. However, I do like him as a six and going forward as well. So I would always say the likes of Johnny Cassidy for me is a player to that I've always admired and love just how he plays the game and how robust he is. Yeah, Justin McDade's probably another one. He's probably been Fermanagh's standout over the last couple of seasons as well, and he will most likely line out in the middle of the pitch. Yeah, he had a number of injuries a number of years ago, and he's battled that, and yeah, he's probably been one of Fermanagh's best players over the last number of seasons as well. So,
Hmm.
you'd be hoping we can get these players into the game, yeah, and they can kick on and yeah, push us on. And as I said, if we can, I suppose, defend well more than anything else, and I think that's always been key to any of the better Fermanagh sides that we've had. If we can defend well, then clearly, hopefully, we can stay in the game and yeah, take it down the stretch and hopefully see where we can go from there. But them for me are probably the two standouts that
Yeah,
hopefully can kick us into gear.
very good. Well, look, we'll wrap it up with a prediction, Ryan. So, what do you reckon?
I, I unfortunately, and I'm really staunch actually at times. I am. I'm always usually just. I'm always banging. The Fermanagh drum. I'm hoping it is going to be. Listen, a game where the lads are just going to go at it. However, for me, anything probably. Yeah. our man. And I hope, by the way, that these words will spur if our boys, any of our boys, come across this. So I'm
Yeah,
hoping they use, and I am mincing my words come next week as well. But I do see an Armagh maybe 3-4 point win. So I can see that happening, unfortunately. So
yeah, yeah. That's fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, Ryan, an absolute pleasure having you on. Great hearing about your playing days and your soccer time and everything else you've been talking about here about the match and your insight and stuff. So look, absolute pleasure, Ryan. Thanks for your time.
good man. No problem at all. Good man. Thank you.